So this video is going to be a little bit different than the rest of my videos, but I want to talk today about a traumatic experience that I had with getting an epidural during labor. I want to preface this video by saying that I am in no way anti-epidural, and I am in no way trying to persuade people not to get an epidural. I think that epidurals are great and definitely have their space in the birth experience. I just want to share this experience so that if other people have been through similar things, they know they're not alone. If you are new to my channel, hi, my name is Kelsey. I am a wife and a mom of 3 kids, ages 6, 4, 2, and then I am pregnant with baby number 4, due in November. And if you're not new, welcome back. Before I jump into my scary epidural story, I just want to give you a quick background as it relates to me and epidurals. When my 6-year-old Leland was born, I did not have an epidural by choice. I labored naturally and gave birth without the epidural. I'll make a whole birth story sometime for each one of my kids, but for now I just want to focus on the epidural aspect as it relates to this story. With my second son, Rhett, I had every intention to labor naturally again without the epidural, but due to a lot of different circumstances, I finally ended up getting the epidural because things felt really out of control. That epidural ended up being amazing. I'm so glad looking back that I got it, and it ended up actually probably helping tremendously with the safety of that birth, and I will once again talk about that in another video as it relates to his birth story. But this is just to say that I am not, once again, anti-epidural, and I do believe that for some people epidurals are definitely the best choice, and with that birth I am 100% happy with my epidural experience. With my daughter Hattie, who just turned 2, I went into her birth also hoping to have a natural delivery. However, I needed to be induced with her, and going into my induction, I knew there was a high probability that I would end up with an epidural because Pitocin contractions are no joke, and so I was really open-minded going into her birth. During my labor with her, I did end up getting an epidural, and that is when this scary experience occurred, which is what I want to talk a little bit more about today. So when I had Hattie, I had a scheduled induction at 41 weeks. And like I said, I expected with the induction that I would probably end up getting an epidural. I labored for about 8 hours with her on the Pitocin before I chose to get the epidural. I let the nurse know, and the CRNA, or nurse anesthetist, came in to place the epidural. He was friendly and pretty nice. I got kind of a weird feeling, and looking back, I don't know if it was just intuition or something, or if maybe like hindsight's 20/20 and I'm just imagining it now after the fact. But he just seemed a little bit cocky, which rubbed me the wrong way, even though he was nice. The whole process of getting the epidural was fine. I know a lot of women have a lot of anxiety about the pain associated with getting an epidural. Honestly, it's not something that really stands out in my mind. I don't remember it hurting too bad. The lidocaine that they put in to numb everything before they give you the epidural is, in my opinion, what hurts the worst, and it just feels kind of like bee stings, but compared to the contractions that I was having at the time, it was hardly even noticeable. I instantly felt relief from my contractions. It was amazing. I thanked the guy profusely before he left and laid down just to try to rest a little and let my body keep progressing. Just a tiny bit of relevant backstory. The week before I got induced, I had a horrible cold, and I was still kind of getting over that, so I had a little bit of a cough still, trying to get like the last remnants of everything out of my lungs, and so I was coughing a little bit here and there. After maybe 15-20 minutes of him placing the epidural, I realized when I tried to cough that I could not cough. I don't even know how to explain it. I could like fake cough, like sorry, that sounds ridiculous, I know, but I could do that, but I could not get a deep cough, like where I actually got air into my lungs and coughed up anything that felt like it needed to come out. And it was just a very odd and scary feeling. It already creeps me out a little bit to not be able to feel my legs and not be able to move by myself and things like that, because I feel really like almost claustrophobic in a way, which is weird because I know it's not like I'm in a tight space, but just that feeling of not being able to move on my own and the loss of control of that really stresses me out. So not being able to cough, especially when I felt like I had junk in my lungs that I needed to cough up, was scary for me. And then a few minutes later, I felt my arms starting to get tingly. I feel like we've all heard those stories of the one-off woman who ends up like having the epidural go up instead of down or whatever, and her like lungs and arms and everything get numb, and they have to put her on a ventilator temporarily and just do a C-section to get the baby out. And you never think that that's going to happen to you. Well, immediately when I started feeling my arms get numb and tingly and wasn't able to cough, I started fearing for the worst and thinking that that was going to happen. I told my husband, like, if I can't breathe, make sure you tell the nurses. And it was just a very anxiety-producing experience. I called my nurse in the room. I told her. She was kind of like, oh, I don't know what to tell you, but I'll call the nurse anesthetist again and have him come back and take a look. He came in, totally brushed off all of the things that I was experiencing. I think he just passed it off to anxiety and thought that I wasn't actually experiencing the things that I was, and that I was just being paranoid, which I can 100% guarantee you was not the case. But he said he would lower the dose of epidural that I was getting continuously, and that maybe he just gave me a little bit too strong of a starting dose. So he lowered that and just kind of brushed me off and left the room. For the next several hours, I continued to not be able to cough. I was terrified to take a drink of water, because on the off chance that you like swallow down the wrong pipe or whatever and have to cough, I wouldn't have been able to cough and get that up. So I didn't really drink anything, which I'm sure wasn't good for me while in labor, but I was just way too anxious and nervous to try drinking anything in case I were to choke and couldn't get that up out of my lungs. Probably after maybe like 3 hours and having the dose lowered, I did start to feel more of the contractions in my stomach, which was not comfortable. I never regained the ability to cough properly. Fortunately, it never seemed to affect my normal breathing, which I am so thankful for. And eventually the like tingling and numbness in my arms did seem to improve once the dose was lowered. So I am thankful for that, and like I said, thankful that it never seemed to actually affect my breathing. But the inability to cough persisted even once all the other stuff started wearing off when the dose was lowered. Right before I pushed my daughter out, I did have him turn up the dose again because the pain was getting really unbearable in my stomach. So the whole time I was giving birth to her, I kept coughing these shallow coughs because there was something really irritating my lungs and I just couldn't get it out. So I felt ridiculous, but every time I pushed, I was having these like weak, almost fake sounding coughs. The doctor probably thought I was insane, but it was really unpleasant. Fortunately, after Hattie was born and the epidural started wearing off within an hour or two, I could cough again. It was the most relieving feeling in the world to finally be able to cough. I was like so relieved and thankful. Looking back, I'm pretty sure, I don't know a lot about epidurals, but I'm pretty sure from the research that I've done that it was probably placed a little bit too high, so it numbed a little too far up. I'm kind of frustrated that the anesthesiologist or nurse anesthetist didn't take my concerns seriously and brush me off. That was probably the most traumatic part. I understand that mistakes happen. I don't necessarily think it was his fault. It could just be due to my anatomy or whatever. But the fact that I wasn't taken seriously bothers me still to this day. I haven't talked to a lot of other women that have, actually I haven't talked to any other woman that has really experienced the same thing. So I just kind of wanted to put this story out there so that if anyone else has experienced the same thing, you'll know you're not crazy, you're not alone, and it definitely can happen, even if medical providers seem to shrug it off as just like a coincidence or anxiety. I will say that this has definitely changed my feelings about epidurals a little and made me a little more hesitant this time around in terms of my plans for my current baby's birth. I haven't really decided yet what I'm going to do epidural wise. I will say I'm not 100% opposed to epidurals still after that. I think the chance of it happening again is probably slim, although it was so unpleasant and unnerving that it definitely opened my eyes to the risks of epidurals, to know that they do actually happen sometimes to some people. So I don't know. I'm curious to know if any of you guys have ever had a similar experience. If you have, please let me know. I'd love to know that I'm not alone in this. Or if you've ever had any other negative experience with an epidural, I'd like to hear that as well. I realize that there are definitely worse complications that women have from epidurals, and I'm by no means trying to minimize that, but this experience was definitely kind of scary and traumatic for me. Please don't be shy. Introduce yourself in the comments down below if we haven't met yet, or if you're a returning subscriber, leave me a comment so that we can stay in touch. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you are interested in following along with the rest of my pregnancy related content and motherhood related content, please subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Have a good day. Bye.